amendment, section 5.4 district use, and section 5.7 solar photovoltaic system. Public hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Zelinski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ogier. Roll call vote.
Bonneville? Yes. Romero?
Yes.
Ogier?
Yes.
Zelinski?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes. Public hearing is now open on zoning ordinance amendment, section 5.4 district use and section 5.7 solar photovoltaic system. Is there anyone out there that would like to speak? When you do, please state your name and your address if you would, please.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Frank Epps. I'm a commercial real estate owner here in town. I'm also the chief executive officer of a solar development company called Energy Development Partners. Now, in that role as a developer, I was instrumental in developing the Oxford Road solar facility that has been now operating for at least about a year and a half on Oxford Road and Pound Hill Road. And this project is presently selling net metering credits to the town and to the schools here in Smithfield. Now, I'm speaking here tonight because I'm involved in another project here in the town. Just for clarification, since doing the Oxford Road solar facility, and I'm sure many of you know about it, it is a project that is well sited on land adjacent to the land resource landfill just south of it. And it is sited in such a way where no one can really see it, and it doesn't have any adverse effect on any type of abutters. Now, I've used this project as a reference and other projects that I've done in the state, namely in West Greenwich on a property that was previously owned by Raven Construction, and also just recently in North Kingstown, property that was recently owned and operated by Driver Sand and Stone. And today, and for the last 6 months now, I've been in conversations with the owners of Holliston Sand and Stone and Slater Farm about developing a solar facility on their property. Now, their property and the solar facility itself would be one not unlike the Oxford Road solar facility, very well sited, very well placed, not abutting any neighbors, and not be able to see by any public way whatsoever off of the current Oxford Road area. And so when I read, and I'm a big supporter, by the way, of a very, very strong solar ordinance in any town. And so when I read the solar ordinance today, and as it's stated today, I'm here to make sure, or to ensure, I should say, it's a better word, that you wouldn't be closing the door on a variance of a project of this nature. Now, this project would be in a zone that is residential, but it's not used for residential purposes. It's been used for manufacturing purposes all these years. And it's a very good site because on the site I have the access to the infrastructure, some of the infrastructure that our project at Oxford Solar built, but also the infrastructure of the transmission lines going right through the area as well. So again, I'm in support of you having a very strong solar ordinance, but I wanted to ensure that that ordinance itself would not be so strict as it could affect or just shut the door to either variances or special use permits in a project of this nature. Now, of course, it would have to go through zoning, or it would have to go through planning, it would have to come to you to receive that variance, I would imagine. But I think that my company and myself have proven in the past that we've followed the rules, regulations in the best interest of the town, especially here in Smithfield. And so as you look at the ordinance, I would ask you to take in consideration exceptions or being open to variances or other things of that nature as we go forward.
Do you have any recommendations or any changes that you might like to see put into this that haven't been addressed?
I'd like to ask my Councilor Pecorini to help me answer that question. John? Put him on the spot.
Could you just say your name?
Yes, sir. Attorney John Pagliarini, Hunter Zero La Piscina, 117 Metro Center Boulevard in Warwick. Surprise question. I'm not prepared to go into detail, but I think the important question is keeping the door open for a use variance. Right now, if you open it up to a special use permit, they can go anywhere. And that's probably not the intent of your ordinance. It should be in the proper location. And I think, as Mr. Epps just described, when you're between a reservoir, a landfill, and another solar project, that might be an appropriate place, particularly when transmission lines go right through the middle of the property. I don't know that we can legislate that detail like that, but I think that if everybody's aware that the council is open to a use variance at the discretion of the planning and zoning board for the appropriate site, we'd be good. So it really goes to your legislative intent. So if you want anything more than that, solicitor.
Well, the only point I would make, Mr. President, if Mr. Pagliarini steps one more time, this is still going to the planning board on Thursday. If you want to really look at this and make a recommendation to the planning board before the council votes on this.
That'd be fine.
Because I was going to ask
Have
you a
a
follow-up question.
concrete recommendation, we can leave the record open and allow that to be presented to the planning board and considered by the council.
I personally think it'd be a win-win for the town, because there was sand, dust, and noise coming out of that location now. Again, be cognizant of the fact that there is restrictions on the amount of megawatts per project by state law. So how you divide it up to keep it within those limitations. It's going to take some creativity. I'm sure you've already looked at it, forgive me stating the obvious. But I think that this would be, that property is going to be very difficult. To me, I think it's a great opportunity to use that property. But I don't make that decision. It's going to be planning board, zoning board, and it's a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else like to speak?
Hello, my name is Matthew Amato. I'm coming here specifically to speak about anything. I live at the residence Slater's in Slatersville. It's a law free app that you guys have down there. I was reading a couple articles lately about some of the solar panels cost, waste management, like 30 years down the road, along with wind turbines and stuff. It's actually scary because the revenue being brought in and the cost effectiveness down the road is actually costing the state more, towns and cities more than it is bringing in currently. I just want to caution you guys and the city or town, North Smithfield, before making any decisions on building something that's going to cost the town or city a lot more 30 years down the road to dispose of waste management or break down solar panels. That's all I have to say.
Matthew, was your last name Amato?
Amato, sir.
Thank you.
The big family Amato from North Smithfield?
Yes.
That was nice.
Yep. A lot of family up here. Some people love them, some people hate them. But
We love them.
We love it.
We love them.
thanks. But a lot of them encouraged me to come in here and try to talk me and seeing some things change. But most importantly, we want to make sure. I hear a lot of budget issues. We want to make sure we're not like, yeah, we're getting money now for solar panels. 30 years down the road, when people are up here, they're going to be like, okay, this is going to cost us longer to remove. I go to Johnston, Wales. We're having huge discussions about those wind turbines right now. It's costing more to remove them, dispose them, cut them up, than actually made them to save building those things. So that's a huge thing that's happening right now. Just caution you guys in researching management and the cost can cost 10, 20, 30 years down the road.
Matthew, there's incentives for the developers from federal money as well as grid money, national grid money coming in. The decommissioning piece of it, in essence, removing it at the end of the lease period. That we try to factor in inflation, consumer price index, and however we look at it, it's challenging. I'm glad to hear you step up and voice your opinion.
Just want to make sure the taxpayers still years from now aren't ending up with the cost or expense of having to remove that stuff. It's great for the developers, but we've got to make sure it's great for the people that want Smithfield. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mike Clifford, 489 Black Plain Road. I don't know if this is appropriate for this particular hearing or not. I figured I'd use my 3 minutes to address solar now in the public hearing. I mentioned before, and wherever it's appropriate, I hope you get and incorporate language into these documents that requires the, prior to approval of the solar overlay zone or district or project, that the soil be tested periodically before the construction begins, 5 years into the construction, 10 years into the construction, 15 years down the road, because I can foresee a problem where when we find out there's contamination in the soil or whatever, everybody will say it must have been there before we started this, and or it must have been because of something else. So I think it's important to have the soil tested initially and then periodically throughout the process before it becomes, if it does seriously lead to contamination, at least you can cut it in the bud when you've tested 10 years and find out there are contaminants in the ground. Because who's going to pay? They'll all be fighting over, I'm not paying for the contamination cleanup because that wasn't my fault. So if we test it and document, we've got a base to stand on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. President, I have many comments. What timing you'd like to hear those?
Well, if we want to make any changes to this ordinance, we have to do them in a public hearing.
And I'm going to suggest that you continue the
We
public
may have to
hearing.
continue because the planning board hasn't addressed the concerns that Mr. Bonioli brought up. They haven't addressed them because that language hasn't made it into this change either. But Tom, if you could come up from, just kind of a follow-up question to what Mr. Epps and the attorneys talked about. You made that change in the ground-mounted solar photovoltaic as an accessory use, but all those residential areas are still with a special use permit.
Correct.
And others, we're like almost encouraging them to make an accessory use on all the other zones. So similar to like, well, actually I can't compare them to National Market or Bet because they put them on their roofs. Has anybody looked at doing it? Has anyone else looked at doing an accessory that's ground mounted?
No, actually, Mr. Epps was the only one who had mentioned it before the planning board.
Is this a unique thing that Holliston is up there on residential? Is that just?
No, the land is zoned residential at Holliston, so it still requires a special use permit. I don't know what their application would be. But a use variance isn't really the right term. If it was not allowed, then perhaps if they wanted to put one in, you would request a use variance. But if they wanted to do something, say, bigger than 6 acres, they would just be asking for dimensional relief. So I haven't seen the application, so I don't know.
I was just curious if we knew, like he says, there's manufacturing going on. And I know you can be a resident in a manufacturing, but this must go back years with a special use permit that allowed them to operate the sand and gravel facility. Because obviously, that's what I do, I'm just saying. There's a lot of electric use on that site, so this would be a big help to them, just like it was the National Locker and it was the Beck and these other guys that are putting them up on the roof, put accessory up there, and he does have the land, and he could probably no longer extract gravel from it, so it may be something that we should look at favorably. Anyone else have any questions of Tom this time? How do we want to handle this? Do we want to go through this? That's 5.4 was the district use, and that's just the chart. And really the only change was in that accessory use, correct, Tom?
As David did mention, the planning board will be discussing the changes you've already batted around. They'll be doing that this Thursday.
That's why they're not, that's why that language is not in here.
Right.
Now, can we put that language in without the planning board's approval? Or we need the planning board's approval, or we need,
The concept was that you made recommendations based upon the last meeting. The planning board would look at those changes. The unique situation here was that this started with the planning board. So because of that, the law said it didn't require it to be referred to the planning board for a recommendation of consistency with the comprehensive plan because it started there. But when it got here, you made some changes, so I recommended it go there for consistency with the comprehensive plan. But the answer is yes, you can make them, but they still have to go to the planning board for consistency. And so, yes, you should make them if you want to make them, if you want to make that.
but it still needs a favorable ruling from the planning board before we can actually put that ruling in place.
That's right. The final document would be.
That's why that language that Mrs. Bonelli was looking at about cleaning the
It's not
property and
there
whatnot and everything is not in there yet because it hasn't gone to the planning
Well,
board.
they hadn't met. They said they weren't going to meet
Right.
That's
before
what I'm
this
saying, it
meeting.
hasn't gone to the. So I guess what I would ask the council then is that, is there anyone else wishing to speak under the public hearing? There is nobody else wishing to speak. Mr. Clifford?
Public hearing, because I'd like to hear what Mr. Gonzalez has to say, and then maybe comment.
I can't hear you, Mike.
Are you going to close the public hearing now? Because it's just okay. Because I'd like to, after he comments, we might have some input into what he says.
So there's nobody else right now wishing to speak under the public hearing. So I would ask the council at this time that we continue the public hearing to December 16th. You'll have enough time before then, Tom, to?
So move.
So there's a motion to continue the public hearing to December 16th.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bottioli, Mrs. O'Hara. Any other discussion?
Can I just ask one question to Tom? Just talk about it, if I was to get this over again. That's okay, Mr. President. So Tom, I have a question, and maybe it's in the application process, but there's a lot of talk about fencing and trees and all that stuff. Is that outlined who's to maintain? Because it's all, half these are on private property, right? So is that at the property owner's expense? Was it like out? I know in some towns and stuff they have upkeep essentially funds along with decommissioning funds to say it needs to be upkept at a regular basis and they pay into insurance it's upkept. I don't know if that's going to municipality or
Well, that's a component of the facility, so something like maintaining fencing is going to go with the entity that's operating the system. It's in their interest to maintain that stuff, to protect their asset.
Okay, that's what I figured. And so another quick question now. The engineer that reviews it, do they have, it's one of the changes made by the zoning, planning board here, for the cost per megawatt. Is that engineer, do they have experience in solar?
That's going to be preferred, you know. It's a new industry. A lot of the civil engineers I deal with, frankly, are kind of learning it now. But the good part about that change is it's going to follow time into the future. So on a case-by-case basis, well into the future, as we get peer reviewed, we establish what is the cost to remove this stuff. It's going to automatically reflect inflation and what it costs to deal with these things in the future. So that's the best we can do.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Bottomoli? Yes. Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So David, the next item, there's no action necessary.
No action, but that will also
That would be, yeah.